Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. Episode 64 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I'm Gary, and as usual, I'm here with Byron. How you doing today, Byron?
Gary, I'm doing great.
That is good to hear. Hey, today, all you listeners, we got a treat for you. We've got an interview with Dave Camarillo, and you can't get anybody more talented to talk to as we got this week. So it's going to be an awesome episode.
Yeah, very interesting interview. He talks a lot about jiu-jitsu, a little about MMA, and a lot about self-defense and different aspects of the martial arts in general. So really interesting interview.
So definitely stay tuned and check out that part of the show.
Good times. Gary, did you have a good Christmas and New Year's?
Christmas and New Year's, good as always. How about you?
Good. Yeah. It's been busy.
Now it's time to get back into training mode. Take a little bit of time off to enjoy the holidays, and now it's time to get ready and start training.
Gary, I got to know, did you stay up until midnight and celebrate New Year's?
I made it to the East Coast, even though we're in the Midwest. So I went to bed a little after 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. So I did not make it.
Did make it, man. Well, that's all right.
About you?
I actually I was at work, and we had.
So you probably did.
It was a busy night. We had two. It's called First In Fire. I'm a firefighter. If you haven't listened to the show before. Not that I mention every show, but
every other show.
But we had two first in fires. That means they're real close to the station, and when one of them was the second one wasn't a first in fire, but it came out like 11:45. So at midnight, I don't know what I was doing, but it was something to do with that fire. So
you did make it. So
yeah,
you beat me.
I guess.
So what about training? Have you kept up your training, or you've had to slow down a little bit due to the holidays?
It's definitely slowed me down. You got to be honest. Between the weather and the holidays and family stuff, that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I will hopefully start back full time and really turn it up this week.
Sounds good, man. That's just part of any long journey. It's going to have little ups and downs and. Time to get back
actually,
on the up.
I don't know. Sometimes I think of the taking a little bit of time off training makes my game a little bit better. Allows me to heal, gets my how do I say it? The joy back. I can't wait to get back into the gym and start training. So a lot of times I find out I'm a little bit better coming off a break.
Yeah, it's important that you are looking forward to it. And if you're going every day, you kind of forget what you're doing is a lot of fun. If you miss a little bit and you start to miss it. And it's fun again. Yeah,
when you start missing it, that's the best time ever.
Gary, I want to remind everybody that they can hop on our email list. They can go to our Facebook page, or they can go to the website, bjjbrick.com. There's a little sign-up form. You just enter your name and email. And every Tuesday, we'll send out an email with notes to the podcast, and also has a link to 2 free audiobooks. One of them is called How to Compete in a BJJ Tournament, Even If You Are Busy. The other one is called Tilt, How to Make Your BJJ Game More Balanced.
And we have got some good feedback on the Tilt. So definitely you want to check it out. Those little articles or ebooks there will definitely help your game out. So Byron put those together, and as we know, Byron's a wealth of information.
It's like a little, it's like a shorter audio podcast. It's nothing super crazy, but if you want a little bit more BJJ Brick, that's a good place to go and get a little bit more action.
And then you'll always get an email to remind you so you don't miss an episode.
That's right. Gary, we would have a quote of the week from last week's guest, but last week it was you and me talking about myths.
So does that mean we got to come up with our own quote?
Yes, it does, and I got one here.
Okay, good.
Okay, this is an English proverb. It says, "A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor."
You know, that is awesome. I really like that one. That is so true. You've that rough sea, you're going to get put in a lot of positions or that you're not familiar with. You're going to have to make a lot of split-second decisions. You're going to have to think quick. to sail your boat.
Yep. Keeping with the boat theme, if all you do is sail across a little pond every day, you're not really getting better at sailing. You get to a certain point where you could read the winds or whatever. I don't know anything about boating, but you get to a certain point and then you level off. But if you're out there on a rough sea occasionally, you get it matters. Your skills start to get better. Sink or swim, literally, or not even swim, sink or float.
Yeah. It's like stepping up in competition. You're all of a sudden in the novice category, in the beginner, and then all of a sudden you're going against a world champion. You're stepping up your game. You've got to learn that much more. You've got to react that much quicker. Your game's got to be on. Your cardio's got to be there. Your whole game's got to be there to keep going.
Yeah, that's a heck of a step up there, Gary. I would say, like, if you stay in the novice category,
go from novice to intermediate.
There you go.
Beginner to intermediate. We'll go.
You got high hopes there. You got quick access.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's not a world champion in the intermediate division.
They sneak down there sometimes to get the medal.
Yeah,
but like, if you're just gonna do novice all the time, that's your smooth sea. You're only gonna get as good. As far as competition goes, pushing yourself further will be a way to make yourself a better grappler.
And it's the same thing in practice. You can go to your gym, practice every day, and just go with the same training partners. Normally on the other side of the room, there's a bunch of other guys waiting for you. Sometimes you may not go with a certain person because that person's so good. Step out of your comfort zone. Go jump in. Go jump in with a purple belts. Go jump in with a brown belts. Just go out there and just give it everything you've got.
Yeah, don't just roll with the guys and gals that don't give you a hard time. Make sure people are pushing you.
Yeah, and that's the only way we're going to get better. We need to be pushed. We need that rough sea.
Yep. So that's an English proverb. I don't know who said it, but there it is.
Well, we're saying Byron Jabara said it today, so we're giving you credit.
Before I forget, this interview with Dave here, we talk a little bit about MMA, and this interview happened, I just got to say, it was December 30th, so it was before any of the UFC one. Yeah.
John Jones fight.
So it was. We don't talk a lot about that, but we just kind of reference it maybe once or twice. I can't remember for sure, but just it was before that. And now that the podcast airs, it's going to be a little after that, so just a heads up, guys. Well, Gary, the music is telling us
it's time for the article of the week.
That's right, my man. MMA121.com had a very interesting article or research or whatever you want to call it. They found the top 5 submissions in MMA/UFC. And basically, UFC is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it looks like it's just UFC competitions where they're taking the data.
Yeah, it's got. I'm looking at this, and Gary finds the article that came out like a few days after this one with new information.
Hey, so we'll start with the first one and move on to the update.
So they take the top 5 submissions, and that they account for 80% of all the submissions that happen in the UFC. So, like, if we talk about, what is a BJJ brick? It's a move that you could smash with. Like, one of your best moves would be your bricks. These are kind of bricks for the majority of the people that are getting submissions in the UFC. The biggest one is rear naked choke at 33%.
And you do see a lot of fights finished with the rear naked choke. A guy gets hit, he's mounted, he starts taking some punches, he rolls over, rear naked choke, game over.
Yeah, and it's just that position is from the back, even with those gloves on, is that they're not a good enough handle, or it makes it harder to choke with those gloves, but still, it's such a dominant position. And you see tons of submissions in in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from the back.
Yeah, definitely.
The second one, Gary?
Second one, we got the guillotine choke, and same thing. You see that hit a lot. You can hit it off a takedown. You can hit it basically from anywhere, mounted. So you see a lot of guillotine chokes.
Then the next one down here, this is the only one that's on this list that's not a choke, which says something about chokes, I think. But armbar, 17%. And I'm going to guess most of those are from, I don't know if most of them are from top or from guard. A lot of guys don't go for the armbars on the top when they can.
Yeah, I mean, I would be curious to see how many are from the bottom, how many from the top, but I don't know. I think I see more from the bottom. What do you think?
I think, well, with Ronda Rousey having like a ton.
Ronda Rousey's hitting from the top.
So she might skew those numbers. Individual fighters can affect these numbers sometimes. But, this, I guess this is for all-time MMA. Because they have they're looking at 654 submissions. So that's not just for the short time that Ronda Rousey's been in it. This is for everybody. So I think it's more encompassing than that.
This isn't just for 2014. This is for
all time.
Okay.
So the other article that is the same website, but it's just 2014, which is very interesting. The last one, Gary? No, the second to last one, I guess.
We got the triangle choke, and a lot of triangle chokes, especially, well, you don't see very many mounted triangle chokes. I think most of them are from the bottom, but there's another choke. Even though you're choking with the legs, there's another choke to add to the rear naked choke and the guillotine. Yep.
And then arm triangle choke. I don't recall seeing arm triangle chokes from the bottom from a guard. I'm sure there's been a couple, but I can't think of any offhand. Vast majority are going to be from side control, switching from one side across the mount and then to the other side.
Yep.
That's how I guess I haven't seen the numbers on that, but most of them are going to be from top. But
yeah, definitely. I think they're probably all going to be from the top.
So, I mean,
especially at the UFC.
Yeah.
Maybe in some lower level organizations, you could see a arm triangle from the bottom, but that's few and far between.
Yeah.
Actually, if anybody watched the UFC last night, there was an attempt on somebody's or a standing arm triangle standing. There was an attempt; it didn't finish, but don't see that very often.
I did not see UFC 182. Was it? Who are you talking about?
To be honest, I don't know the number, but it was Jones and Cormier.
Yeah,
it was the Louis Gaudinot against somebody. I can't even remember his name, but they were up against the cage. He kind of got that arm caught. Went for a little kind of head and arm, and then actually jumped up to pull guard, but the guy got out of it very easily.
Huh. That's interesting. I'd like to see that one. I haven't seen that, but I think that would be very tricky, and the person's height would be a significant factor in your ability to pull that off.
Yeah. What submissions were you surprised that really didn't make it in here?
In the top five? I don't know. I think they're all in there. I thought I would see a foot lock.
See, I thought so too. Maybe a heel hook, but I guess with Paul Harris fighting now in World Series of Fighting.
Yeah, and this is all time.
Dean Lister.
Yeah. It just goes to show you that if your submission that you like a lot is not on this list, you go tell Paul Harris that leg locks aren't worth studying and working on. The submissions work. It's up for you to figure out how to get them to work into, if they're appropriate for your MMA game. But he'll just die for those legs, and it works. He chains a couple of them together, and then he waits longer than I would like before he releases the submission. It's kind of a unfortunate deal, but.
Well, it's coming. When you're in the cage against Rusumir Paul Harris, you know he's coming after your legs, and he'll even shoot for a double and just pull guard right from there.
Yeah,
and, it's coming, and it's still very, very hard to stop.
Yeah. So, and then Gary found this article that was the what was it? The top 5 of 2014.
Yeah, I guess it was the top 5 of 2014, and it said that the triangle choke is out of the top 5, and Kimura took its place. And it basically says the Kimura submission is stolen the 5th place spot, and triangle is switched to 6th. And it said in 2014 there's been 4 Kimura submissions and 3 triangle chokes. Not a whole bunch of them, but it was also saying that the triangle had been in there since the last 10 years had been in the top 5, and it's talking about, can the triangle choke make a comeback and get itself back in the top 5 submissions? And the day that this article came out, they said there's 8 more scheduled events left in 2014, so it's possible it could tie or maybe even take the lead. I'm trying to think of last night. I don't think there was a Kimura or a triangle.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how, like, the meta, how everyone's doing things changes with the seasons and with the different people who are in there. But still, rear naked choke, 44%. That's almost half of the submissions are going to be rear naked choke.
Yeah. When you think about going back to when you first started training, I tell you the first 3 submissions I probably learned were the rear naked choke, the guillotine choke, and the armbar. Top 3 right there.
That's your fundamental. That's your basics right there, Gary.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, really, those were the first 3 submissions I learned.
That's cool. And I would like to see. Still, I don't know what's from the back. The guillotines probably are more often from the back than from the top. The armbar, I don't know.
Oh yeah, from the back.
Yeah, no, from your back. I don't know or top or bottom. You know what I mean? Like it would be interesting if it said the position.
As many on top. I mean, people still do hit the guillotine from the top,
but it doesn't seem as common or standing.
Yeah, definitely.
So that would be an interesting way.
I'd like to see it broken down a little bit more. And I know it has to have been, but just the article we read didn't have it broken down any farther.
Yeah, very cool article, very very interesting, and to compare the two, that's fun.
Yep. And I think it's crazy too. I mean, I started watching the UFC with UFC 2, so I've been watching it a long time, and it seems like early days, and I mean, everybody wasn't skilled. Jiu-Jitsu was kind of a unknown art. But there were a lot of submissions back in the days versus today. Everybody's so skilled. The submissions, they know what to look for. Everybody's seen it. It's a little bit harder to pull off submissions, I think, than it was back in the early days.
Yeah, Gary, my friend, it's been a long time since I've seen a gi choke in the octagon.
I remember Hoist tapping out Shamrock.
Yep, that's the one I can remember too. There's probably been a couple others, but
yeah. I can't remember when the last time I've seen somebody wear a gi and actually fight in it. Well, I don't think they probably allowed it.
Yeah, it's against the rules.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny. Gary, before we get to the interview, a couple guys we got to thank and talk about. Roy Marsh has a guillotine tips or a guillotine seminar he did a little while back. It's a video available for download. I'll put a link to it on the show notes. It's a little over an hour long, and you could get it and support him and what he's doing. But we'll play a clip from Roy Marsh and get you guys a guillotine tip for this episode, and we'll come back and talk about it a little bit. So here goes. This is Roy Marsh with a guillotine tip.
The one thing you want to remember when you have a very good submission is it's not just the submission that changes your game, it's the threat of the submission. I want the person to be afraid to ever bring his head forward. And so whether he's passing my guard or whether I'm passing his guard, if he's ever leading with his head, I want to make sure to at least scare him with the threat of the guillotine and causes him to back up. So if he's passing my guard, he's either going to lead with his hands and try to control my upper body, in which case he has to basically try to pass my legs without controlling my legs, or he has to use his hands to control my legs, in which case he generally has to bring his head forward to try to pass. And when he does, I want to make sure to start hunting that neck. That's why I catch so many guillotines, or to at least put the threat of the guillotine to make him sort of second guess his passing. Same thing when I'm passing. If I'm on top and I'm starting to pass and he tries to sit into me for like an underhook, he basically has to bring his head forward, in which case I'm going to start hunting the guillotine. To defend that, often he'll basically back up, put his back on the mat, and I can continue with my pass. I know this very well because when I was a purple belt, I rolled with Marcelo Garcia, and he did this to me over and over. Every time he would start to pass, I'd sit up, he'd guillotine me, I'd back out, he'd pass. So I've definitely incorporated that concept into my game.
And some great wisdom there from Roy, and that is a big thing. I think a lot of times people just think, hey, I've got a great submission that can end this fight, but so many times it is the threat. You can stop a pass with that threat. So just the threat of it is gonna change the match big time, especially when that guillotine is your brick. It is your hold that you're smashing people with. You can either finish with it or you'll stop the pass and change the game around a little bit. So I really do like that what Roy was talking about there. Yeah,
and I appreciate the information about if he's trying to pass my guard and use his hands to block my arms, he's not using his hands to control my legs. Or if he's going to use his hands to control my legs, I'm going to go for the guillotine and it's going to bother him.
your hands are free right there to choke him. He's got both his hands around your legs trying to smash past, and his neck's right out there.
So that's a very cool tip, and lots of good information on Roy's seminar there, available for download. He's a friend of the show. Help him out if you're into guillotines and want a little bit better of a guillotine. He'll help you out. We also have
Gustavo Dantas, the BJJ mental coach. He was on a few episodes back. You definitely want to check that out. But he's got a great DVD series right now, dealing with how to get your mind right.
Yep, there's some different elements of the game, cardio, technique, and a big part that we often forget about is the mental side of the game, and that's what these 4 DVDs are about. He's not going to show you techniques and stuff like that. He's going to help you get your mind ready for competition, and he helps you on and off the mat kind of organize things. And very, very good DVD, very interesting.
And that's the thing I like what you said there, on and off the mat. I find all that stuff, basically from his DVD set, goes right back to what we're doing at life. I mean, not just on the mat. So it can help you your personal life, and it can help you on the mat. So definitely kill 2 birds with 1 stone right there.
That sounds good, Gary. Gary, let's get to the interview here. We'll play a little message about the most interesting grappler in the world.
Which definitely is not me.
It's not me either. But those are fun. Those have been fun to record there. But then we'll get on to our interview with Dave Camarillo. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
After winning ADCC, Barbara Walters interviewed him, and she cried. He once got lost in the Amazon jungle. He hit a flying armbar on an anaconda. Word on the street is, he once escaped Alcatraz by shrimp growing. During The Ultimate Fighter, Dana White often calls him for a pep talk.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'd like to introduce Dave Camarillo to the BJJ Brick podcast. Dave, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on here with me. I really appreciate your time and excited to hear from you and get some of your knowledge and your wisdom about Jiu-Jitsu.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
If somebody hasn't heard of you, could you kind of introduce yourself to some of the audience?
Sure. I've been involved in martial arts since I was 5 years old. My father was my first instructor in Judo. I trained sometimes 7 days a week. Made it to an elite level in terms of competition. Got my black belt, I think, around 17, 18 years old. Trained all the time. My dad even built a garage in the back when he matted it. I trained. That's the kind of lifestyle that I had. So my brother was my best training partner, 4 years older, very, very good. I did that and competed. I was number 2 in the nation for a while. Did pretty well internationally. Then I started Jiu-Jitsu when I was about 19. Did both at the same time. My Jiu-Jitsu really helped my Judo, especially when the match hit the ground. The speed of Judo mixed with the technique of Jiu-Jitsu really helped me get an edge on opponents. I started doing flying arm bars, things like that in competition. Really started opening up my game. Then got my black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. Shortly after, started with the American Kickboxing Academy, I think probably the number 1 MMA gyms in the world, or at least top 3 currently. Did that for about 10 years, trained fighters such as Josh Koscheck, John Fitch, Cain Velasquez, and Daniel Cormier. After that, I left MMA to pursue a little bit more of my career, in which I now have 2 schools, one in San Jose, a Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu school, and one in Pleasanton, which is the East Bay. Both are running really good. We work really hard at it. I'm teamed up with some incredible people, including Matt Darcy, who's a Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Also on the side, I'm now heavily involved in combatives, training special operations teams, pretty heavily involved in that. And so I'm basically taking all of my experience from Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, the wrestling that I gained training with guys like Cormier, the kickboxing from Javier Mendez, and probably the best MMA coach or corner in the world, Bob Cook. All of that experience is now gaining new experience with military and really helping them, learning their job and helping creating a program for special operations, basically just encompassing my experience in martial arts.
How long ago did you start getting into the combatives training?
It's been over 6 years now. I'm level 4 certified Modern Army Combatives program, which is the highest level. I've trained with many different combative instructors, and I have a lot of experience working hands-on and really closely with some elite teams in special operations. So it really, I just get a kind of a bird's eye view or kind of a fly on the wall and really adapting what I know and what I grew up knowing and gaining new knowledge, and then, creating and constantly evolving a program that helps those who put themselves in harm's way. This also includes law enforcement. We have a lot of law enforcement that train in our academies, all the way from arresting procedures to even initial contact, even shooting. I do a lot of shooting with some of my buddies, training, again, with elite guys that it's their job, it's their life. And so that kind of helps me because I like to be busy in different aspects of martial arts, and this has given me a perfect avenue to do that.
You talked a little bit about like bridging the gap when you were doing judo at a real high level, and then you started jiu-jitsu and how they kind of blended together a little bit and how you're able to use one for the other. Is there much of that with the combatives?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I actually do a lot of judo in the combatives, but it depends on the level of individual that I'm working with. You want to keep it very simple, very basic, and there's certain things that they need in we call it initial contact of an individual that may resist or may be a combatant, which could put their lives in danger. So there's certain things that we do initially that are very, very basic, very self-defense oriented, because I cross-train. Like, I'll teach women very similar to some of the things that I use in combatives. I've taken a lot of some of the self-defense that I've learned from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, basically aspects of everything. I've created my own. I've adjusted things. But we do everything, so it's constantly evolving. The guys who are heavily involved in the training do everything. They do fighting, they weapon transitions, fighting more than one person. So it's not a quintessential understanding of fighting. It's anything can go in certain situations, and this is for self-defense as well. Certain arts teach you to deal with one person, but what if there's a second? What if there's a third? These are things that a lot of these martial arts cannot answer and have not answered properly. Whereas I have now been exposed to elements that train special operations and also scenarios in special operations that help me adjust the curriculum and, again, create a program that is not existing within a set rules, which is basically what we call sport, jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling, things like that.
I think a lot of people that do, I guess any of the martial arts, have like maybe a misconception about how good they would do in a street fight, maybe, or it's funny to watch jiu-jitsu guys. They look at other martial arts, that doesn't work, that wouldn't work, it doesn't. But like you're saying in jiu-jitsu, like, so what? I get mount on a guy. If his buddy sneaks around me and puts a knife in my back, mount was a terrible position to be in, and I should have avoided that to begin with.
Right. Well, this starts with what we call situational awareness. I have been in a situation in Brazil, actually, that I had to use situational awareness. Before I went to Brazil, my coach, Ralph Gracie, who's a phenomenal coach, amazing fighter, told me, when you go to Brazil, just be careful. And this could be not just Brazil. This could be anywhere. Yeah. There's parts of the United States that are definitely, I would say that situational awareness is important. But again, it could be anywhere. But I'm just going to use this example because this happened in my life. he said, yeah, be careful, because what they'll do is there'll be a 2-man or 3-man team. When one shows a gun or something like that, you got to look out for who's in the crowd that might pop out and aid that person. So that's exactly what happened to me. I was on a bus. A guy pulled a gun in Brazil on a bus. Scared out of my mind, but tried to keep my composure. I was calming down the lady next to me, and he started robbing people. And I looked at him a couple times, and he was right next to me with a gun to somebody's head. And these are real scenarios. This is a real situation. Hopefully that I'm never in again. But I started contemplating my options. I started thinking, well, if I try to apprehend this person, I could get shot. I could, many things could happen. And so as I was reading the situation and looking at his tension levels, I felt that he was going to rob and leave. And that's exactly what he did. But when he left, another guy got up with him, his second team member, ran out with him. So if I had attacked him, thinking maybe he's going to start shooting people and it might be the right thing to do, his buddy would have probably came up behind me and I would have been in serious trouble. So it starts with situational awareness, and people need to understand that, in a self-defense connotation, it's rarely okay to say, okay, it's one-on-one. One-on-one is a sport mentality, and we need to adjust that to our surroundings. I always tell people the first thing you need to do is, should you be in this geographic location at that particular time? Like if I'm in a bar, for example, and this place is known for fights, why am I going to that bar? Or why am I going to this area where there seems to be a concentration of fights? So I say avoid. Avoid is our first line of defense. Avoid high-risk areas.
Yeah.
And I don't need to know self-defense or physical self-defense, technical self-defense to abide by that. And what will happen is your ratio for, I would say, contact of a bad situation will go down. I live in ratios. So my game, for example, my jiu-jitsu game, I do certain things that increase my ratio for finishing. And I try to take that and apply that in every situation.
I like how you were aware that, I guess anybody who's doing that, like on a bus, could have a buddy, but you had like a little bit more of a little heads up. Like, this is a good chance if this happens, he's not doing it by himself. And so here you are doing martial arts since you were 5. Like, they have no idea who you are on this bus, and they have, like, I'd imagine a lot of people would be like almost excited for the opportunity to use something you've been trained for your whole life, and you're weighing these options, and really you decided this is about they're taking people's money. If the guy would have started hitting somebody with his gun, or you thought he was going to shoot somebody, that would have probably been a different option for you, the way you reacted. Right. But you said, this is for money, screw it, no big deal.
I'll get a new wallet, without a doubt. I think the other equalizer is the firearm.
Yeah.
That raises the level. If someone just starts hitting somebody around, okay. Even if he pulls a knife, okay, that's another type of threat, which is very dangerous. A gun is another type of threat, which is very dangerous, and you deal with them conceptually differently, and someone has to analyze that. But I'll say right now that I think in this case, Ralph Gracie really helped me, because he opened my eyes to the realities of I don't know what you want to call it, areas where people, prey on other people. Yeah. I think it's the best way to say it. And those areas exist in every single country.
Yeah, not to mention that if you did decide to contact this guy with a gun, that every bullet that leaves that gun is going somewhere. If it doesn't hit you, it could hit. There's other people on the bus, and that's, the whole situation. Right. I like your awareness of everything.
So this is very much like I would say, and pardon my ignorance, but law enforcement, it's kind of the same mentality. You want to defuse a situation. Nobody goes into a situation like that thinking, okay, well, let's raise the bar and make this an action movie. Make this an action movie. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not healthy. For you or anyone on the bus. Now, if that decision is decided by other parties, then you have to assess that and then move from there. And again, like I said, this is not cool. It's not a cool thing that happened. It's an experience in my life, and I never want it to happen again.
Yeah.
But I will, because of the training, and my exposure to this world more now than ever, that I will assess and act according to my judgment, like any law enforcement, like any military.
Wow. There's a lot to that story, and I appreciate you for sharing it. I mean, trying to comprehend everything that happened in probably just a few minutes and learn from it and how to behave in a situation similar to that.
Right. I think I always say that violence in society is prevalent, but it's rare for the individual, depending on the individual. And that's why we kind of go to sleep to it. It's on the news, it's here and there, but it can happen. And I think before we get into what technique, like how do I break a headlock, we need to really philosophize and educate people through verbal communication and really get them thinking. Because if people are not thinking, they're kind of asleep. And you gotta put a context to every situation to enrich the need for it and the understanding why we do what we do. Why do we train martial arts? I really don't think that martial arts is for sport first. I sincerely believe it's self-defense and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Primarily.
I think when you ask somebody, why did you start martial arts, it's a rare answer to hear, I wanted to be a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete, or I wanted to do judo at a high level and win some titles. I wanted to learn how to protect myself.
I almost never hear, in terms of new students coming into the academy, say that they want to. It's for competitive reasons, because they don't understand competitive reasons. That's not even on their plane of existence. I mean, most people, martial arts is self-defense, which it should be. It coordinates the body, it coordinates the mind. Now, later down the road, people go, oh, okay, well, I want to engage and take that further. And I think competition actually aids the self-defense mindset. But if you get into the competition early, right away, I think it actually is a detriment to the self-defense mindset.
So when would be like a good time you recommend somebody step into competition?
I think, the way we run our curriculum, I think it's vital for people to understand self-defense first and really be exposed to that mindset. Remember, I've always said jiu-jitsu instructors create culture. They also create a mindset. Anyone selling something or preaching something is pushing their mindset on someone else, and many times it's very valuable. And so what I try to do is just explain the importance of self-awareness and self-defense. Now, if somebody has, at least in our curriculum, I'm obviously very proud of our curriculum. If they have the fundamentals of our curriculum down and understand it and understand why they should apply it at certain times, then we actually, we have a very good competition team. But I don't think it's best, and again, you're going to have millions of different opinions, but to start jiu-jitsu as a sport first, because you're going to lose a lot of the value in its universal application. It has a universal application: self-defense, MMA, self-awareness, sport jiu-jitsu, fitness. All these things, and you'd be cutting off self-awareness, self-defense. If you just, like, for example, I'm only a guard puller. Well, that's awesome. But I don't want you next to me if I get in a fight with a bunch of people and I have to, defend my family. You know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely.
So
you mentioned how the competition helps aid the self-defense aspect of it. Is that just getting there with somebody else and kind of going at it a little bit, or how does that help you?
The other side of the spectrum is, of course, if I only do katas, for example, and we all do katas. Like, we do a lot of thread work. Actually, MMA fighters do katas. You learn at a rate where somebody's a good partner for you. You're maneuvering them around. We call it threading. Like, for MMA, for example, I could strike my way into a single, finish the single, leg drag pass, throw an elbow, mount, and do an armbar. That's a thread. That's a kata. And that's how people learn how to flow. And that's what we do in our academy. If that's all you're doing, though, and you're not having any resistance, there's an issue. Because then you're bringing a lot of confidence into a situation that you may not be equipped to handle. And so I think a mixture of katas, which are necessary, without a doubt, because that's basically technique. Technique is kata. because they're not resisting when you're first learning a triangle. You need a partner that cooperates. But if you do not play test it, then that's another element, and you're going to be kind of stuck. I'm not going to say it's a detriment because I still think there's value there, but you're going to be kind of putting a cap on how much value you've had in training. And so when someone's on top of you trying to choke you, that's an experience that a lot of people don't have that will happen potentially in a self-defense encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned that your brother was one of your best training partners back when you were doing judo. Ever?
Yeah.
Ever. It seems it's crazy that you see two brothers that, like, do really well together. It's just amazing, like the bond they will form and the ability to train. And in theory, if you look at the numbers, two family members shouldn't be at the top of the podium together. Like, there's just too many people, too many odds against them. But it happens all the time. It
happens a lot. I think there's a trust. There's I don't know how many billions of people on this planet. You have all these people with different perspectives, different genetics, different behavioral tendencies, but when you grow up with the same mother, same father, and you're in the same house, and your kind of value systems are very similar, there's a trust. We share the same blood, so there's a trust there that I know my brother's going to try to beat me up, and it's a good thing. And at the same time, I know he's going to control it, so it's a healthy, competitive environment. And I know we're not always going to agree on everything, but when we're like 50, 60 years old, we'll still probably go first to score on the carpet. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing that you grew up with, and it'll always be there, and you'll support him to the end. So when you have that as a training partner, and for me, in my particular case, my brother was 4 years older, so I was never as good as him, and I'm still not as good as him, but I had something to strive for. Maybe that's why I have cauliflower ear and he doesn't. I have him to thank, all the toughness that I have and all the great experiences day in, day out with a father who supported us. Because in reality, it's not just the siblings. If I did not have a family that supported me, and I've seen this a lot, especially owning an academy now, where sometimes the child doesn't have the support because the parents don't quite understand the value of martial arts. You're going to have that. Well, we didn't. We had it. My dad worked very hard and pushed himself, walked the line, and my mother was right there doing the same thing and basically keeping the family sane. So it was a 4-person team that the result, I think, was awesome.
That's cool. You started when you were 5. What age is a good age for a kid to start jiu-jitsu if they're interested in it?
We started our kids at 3.
At 3? And what are they doing?
Yeah, I think 3 is good. But remember, every child is different. But I've never seen a child come in at 3 years old that wasn't able with support. Of course, our instructors are very, very good. We have a great curriculum. We worked very hard. But I need the support from the parent. It's a circle of support where if the kid is trying to move away from the training, they hit a wall of support. They move the other direction, they hit a wall of support. Now, that's not, we talk about forcing. So, for example, people ask me, well, Dave, you were forced to do judo, and I was. Is that good or bad for a child? I think it's phenomenal. And those who disagree, I'm going to say this. Do we force our kids to go to school? Do we force our kids to get an education, a mental education? Yes. Then why not force them to learn a life skill? Life skills are swimming, being in some kind of good condition, some kind of subsistence strategy like cooking or whatever, or earning money or whatever, but also self-defense. Why is self-defense not looked at as a life skill? It is a life skill. Whether you ever use it or not, you have the confidence to defend yourself. So I just can't. I do not buy that a child should not be. And I look at it as a very positive environment. The way it's done, it's not done with yelling or anything like that. I do not force any child in our program to compete. As a matter of fact, I don't think competition is for everyone, because it definitely has a psychological positive and negative. And there's not just a positive there. There's also a negative, and I've seen it every day, especially at jiu-jitsu tournaments. If the child has support and it says, look, this is a life skill, and I've had one of the parents articulate it to me perfectly. They're like, yeah, my daughter, she doesn't really like jiu-jitsu, but she's going to do it twice a week. And then next thing you know, she loves it. It just takes time. You got to get through a period of, like a what do you call it when you get a new job, a probational period.
Yeah.
But if the parent goes, okay, well then take clarinet. Oh, okay, we'll take that. Well, yeah, then the kid's just going to bounce around. Remember, if we give kid the free reign that I think some kids get, they'll just play video games and eat candy.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not talking about yelling and this and that, not a negative environment. I'm talking about a very positive environment, a very positive tone, but you are going to learn a life skill, and that is going to be jiu-jitsu or judo, which is phenomenal.
Is one easier for kids to pick up than the other, or?
We do a full judo program here as well, and we have in our jiu-jitsu, it's guerrilla jiu-jitsu. It's not Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Highly influenced by Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but we do too much wrestling and too much judo for me to call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu, even though the belt systems are the same. But I definitely take pride in. I want our kids we don't even teach them guard pulling much. You know what I mean? Like if they gravitate towards that, that means they have a takedown game. We just teach these guard pull. It's like you're not teaching coordination on a level that I think is required in many aspects of life. I think I'm going off on a tangent, but I think judo is phenomenal. I think what judo gives a little bit, at least, and again, our jiu-jitsu program has judo in it, but what it gives children is it's a little bit more toughness. And when I say a little bit, a lot more. Yeah, yeah. Because if they do it for 10 years, you look at all these judoka, they're tough individuals, and most of them are very, very respectful. Because that's another thing we emphasize. I'd rather a child be a good person than win a tournament. And I just don't see that a lot, especially when you go to a tournament and you see, oh, this is about winning. And I'm like, we love winning too, but, I'd rather see a good person. Yeah. And that's why we don't yell. We don't make it a negative experience. We make it a very positive one, but one that should be like Jigoro Kano wanted. It should be a part of life.
Back when you were 5, you said you were forced to do judo. How long did you hate it? Did you dislike it? Would you rather be doing something else, or how was your level of how hard were you having to be pushed?
Well, I think every person who does martial arts long enough or anything will have the full spectrum of emotions.
That's true. Yeah,
that's being a human being. When people say, well, yeah, but they don't like it. Like, for example, I'll give an example. One of our students, true story, he was like 4 or 5, and he started our jiu-jitsu program. And he liked it, and then he came in sick one day. And the parents were like, well, he doesn't like it. And we're like, okay, hold on. As I understand it, he's not feeling well today. Well, if I interview you and you're sick, you're generally going to be a little bit more negative than if you were like the best shape of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your perspective shifts with the wind, whether you show it or not. So what happened is they go, oh, well, that makes sense. So they kept bringing him. He's still here. He's our longest. He started our kids program, and he's still here. He's the highest ranked kid in our academy, and he's a happy kid, and he can defend himself. He's doing judo. He's getting belted in judo. He's getting belted in jiu-jitsu. And he's just an amazing kid. Now, what if I said, yeah, okay, if he doesn't like it, okay. And I didn't talk to the parents. I didn't really say, look, with a little support, so you would have lost years and years of training. And all of the audience that listens to your podcast understand who does jiu-jitsu, they're going to love it. But at times, it's frustrating. And that's fine. I don't like this, I don't like that, or I get tapped, or whatever the situation may be. Yeah, there's going to be ups and downs. And every instructor should remind their students there's going to be ups and downs. There's been ups and downs in my life. People say, well, yeah, it's so fun, right? I'm like, man, if judo was if I did judo because it was fun, at times I would have quit. I was pushing to make the Olympic team. Name an Olympian that goes into their practice and says every day is fun. Yeah, maybe, or maybe they're just a very positive person.
Yeah.
But there's days where I did not want to go to practice. But I picked myself up out of bed because I was conditioned to and ignore all the negative thoughts of it's better to sit here and play video games or whatever, or go out with my buddies or whatever. No, I was there in San Jose State training 3 times a day, twice a day. And I never even made the Olympic team, you know what I mean? So there's always ups and downs, always, in everything, in every aspect of life. You have to anticipate it so you're better prepared.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that kid. Yeah, he had a bad day, and he would have wanted to be done with it that day. He was sick. If I'm hungry, sometimes I get in a little grumpy mood, and I start seeing things from a negative point of view. It's just everything could affect you, and just put that aside for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. They did a study, and this is a real study. I think they got in trouble for it, but on Facebook, they did a study, and they through people's news feeds, they collected a bunch of negative posts, and they forced people in certain areas or whatever to only see negative posts. And the outcome was those people that were subjected to negative post negatively more often.
Yeah.
It's psychological. This is science. You can't really argue this. If you're around a bunch of negative people, you're going to be negative. If you haven't eaten, you're going to be negative. Some people are better than others, I think genetic, to deal with that. But if we, as a group, understand that there's going to be ups and downs and we prepare for it and we have support, positive support, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah, I'm just trying to grab the way they're able to crowdsource involuntary people and really make their day kind of crappier than it would have been, just because their feed has been changed. That's crazy. I never heard of that one.
I think it might be worth it though.
It's interesting.
It's a good. As long as it's not prolonged, but it's a good. I studied sociology in college, and we there's so many. Testing or whatever they did that you couldn't even get away with now, but you still learned a lot from it. You know what I mean? Anyway.
You said a little while back there, when someone's going to compete, there's positives and negatives. A positive would be training hard and winning the competition, or just the bond you form with your teammates and things like that. What are some examples of some negative things that people get from the competition?
Too much pressure, especially for kids, and I see it at every tournament. And, I've experienced in my life. So I see fathers yelling at their kids for losing. Somebody told us that we have the best winners and losers, and there's a lot of great academies, but of course you hear, people praising your academy for whatever you're doing, and it feels really good. But when our kids lose, I tell them, I go, it's okay, man. It's not a big deal. I go, and this is our elite competition team. We took third at the U.S. Open 2014, which is the biggest tournament around here.
Yeah.
And 2013, we took first in overall juvenile.
Wow.
Now, we're a serious player, even though we're outgunned because we're very new. We don't have 100 black belts on the mat. We are the underdogs. Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu is the underdog. There's powerhouses out there that we beat. And again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. My point is you can be a competitive powerhouse and still, and I know a lot of gyms are doing this because I see it. I see a great amount of respect out there, but I also see an over emphasis on winning.
Yeah.
That's not good for kids. Kids need to be happy. That's it. Kids need to be happy.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to talking about that experiment. You go back, you're having a bad day, go to jiu-jitsu. Hopefully you're at a gym, and I think most gyms are. It's a happy environment. People are having a good time.
Yeah.
People are training hard. You're sweating. You're working out. You mentioned your kids' team being so successful. How much are these kids training?
Well, it depends. Most of them train every day.
Yeah.
5 days a week. I have a kid, and like you said, these gyms are awesome, and it's popping up all over the place, and they do incredible things for people. They elevate their lives. One story, we had a kid, he didn't want to take off his shoes or his socks when he did his first class. He's very timid.
Yeah.
Scared. Timid. Very shy. Fast forward 2 years, he's like our most technical youth competitor, winning almost all the Jiu-Jitsu comps. Now he's winning adult competitions, and he's winning in Judo competitions. And he's just a phenomenal martial artist with a great attitude. That's what martial arts does for people. It's an amazing thing.
That
changes
cool.
lives.
You've got a lot on your plate right now. Could you kind of tell us some of the stuff that you've got cooking up right now?
Working 7 days a week, running our businesses. Really, just to be honest, living the American dream. I don't think there's any better way to say it. I work extremely hard, and I get out of it what I put in it. Me and my wife, to me, it's a family business. I went from the highest level in mixed martial arts, and to me, it was amazing, but it's nowhere near amazing like the life I'm leading now. And it's because of going back. I consider myself a martial arts success case, meaning, I've struggled with, normal emotions that most people struggle with, and martial arts keeps me in check. It's an amazing thing. So what do I have going on? I'm leading a martial arts life that I see the impact with the people around me, and it's an amazing life. However, of course, we work very, very hard. The combatives now in the last 4 or 5 years has really, really grown. So for me, that's something I take a lot of pride in, because it's like if I knew then what I know now, that whole thing I would have served. But I think this is the closest thing I can come to that is really working one-on-one with people that are just an amazing people that do amazing things, including law enforcement. Just amazing people. That because of jiu-jitsu, they are better at their job. It's a skill set.
Yeah.
And for me, it's creating, and it's being a part of that, and it's teaching the kids. I teach the kids every week. When they, when I was in the corner, when Cain Velasquez beat Brock Lesnar, it was one of the most amazing times of my life. But it will always take a second to a child that maybe wins their first tournament, or a kid that takes their socks off because they're comfortable being on the. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing. That's my life right now.
I think that like the kid taking off his socks is him like growing up several years mentally, or being like taking. He's almost changed as a person when able to overcome that little hurdle that he's put on himself.
Yeah, it's what it's probably the best way to say it's what life is all about for me. It's what's life. That's life to me.
Cool. What advice would you give to a BJJ athlete, one that's done some sports jiu-jitsu, and they're going to try to make the transition to MMA? Some have a lot more a game that's geared more towards that, and some don't. But in general, do you have any advice for somebody?
First I'd say, why do you want to fight?
Yeah, that's
I've seen every experience you can experience in MMA. I've seen the lowest amateur. I've seen venues that look like they're going to fall apart, all the way to UFC, Pride, Strikeforce. I would ask them immediately why. And I actually just started training fighters again, and I sit them down first. When they come train with me, I sit them down. I go, "Why are you fighting?" And they should know. Number one, they should know it's not a good career move.
Yeah.
It's not for. It should not be for career. For 99% of people out there trying to fight, it should not be really for career. It should be something that you want to, reach a higher level of competition. I totally get it. If you're a wrestler and you want to test yourself in that arena, I get it. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you want to make the transition to MMA, I would say why. If you answer like I answered, that okay, I get it. If it's to be famous, then I won't train you. I don't think it's about fame. I think when we say mixed martial arts, when I think martial arts, I think of respect and honor. Those should be paramount.
Yeah.
So again, I'm answering your question a little bit more like maybe philosophically, but I think attitude is most important. What drives the person who wants to get into MMA, because that's mindset going in. They should understand MMA before they just jump into it.
Yeah, it's different.
A lot of risk. A lot of it's not judo. It's not wrestling. There's a lot of risk in MMA.
Yeah, I imagine you're not sitting people down before they start jiu-jitsu and say, "Why do you want to do this?" You just welcome them in and let them start training. But if you want to start doing MMA, like you say, there's a lot more risk, and there's other things that happen when you're training for that.
Yeah, we actually do like to know why people come in. We ask them, well, so what are you looking for in the program? Because if it's self-defense, awesome. We help them with that. But I think the education and understanding where people are coming from is important.
Yeah.
That's first.
Are there very many...
jump into it. Now, if you're a jiu-jitsu stylist, so let's get to, if you're a jiu-jitsu stylist and you want to do MMA and you're going to do MMA, what's my advice to you at that point? First, MMA is not jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's grappling. When people say, I see these articles and they're trying to write about why is jiu-jitsu not the dominant sport it used to be in MMA? Well, because before it wasn't MMA. Now it is. Everyone's doing jiu-jitsu. And just because there's not a bunch of arm bars, in every division, doesn't mean jiu-jitsu is not working. But I wouldn't even call it jiu-jitsu anymore. It's grappling. There's no gi.
Yeah.
There's no pulling guard to win a fight. For the most part, there's none of that. People are very good at defending what jiu-jitsu brings to it, or the grappling, arm bars, shows, things like that. So if you pull guard, you're going to get punched in the face. So somebody who does jiu-jitsu, they need to cross-train. They need to start getting punched in the head a little bit. Hopefully it's controlled so they don't have brain damage down the road. But you need to step outside your comfort zone. You need to not do jiu-jitsu anymore. You need to grapple. You need to wrestle. You need to learn Muay Thai grappling, Muay Thai striking, boxing. You need to do mixed fighting. And these days it's a highly competitive arena. It's I would even say it's not even for people who are not genetically prone to athleticism.
Yeah,
we're getting into all kinds of subjects, but the guys who are winning are athletic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about built athletic through training. I call it a genetic envelope. You can only push so far genetically. You can improve, but there's GSP, and then there's somebody who's not as athletic. Whoever, John Doe. John Doe, who's not genetically prone to athleticism, will never be as good as GSP. He just doesn't have the advantage. It becomes highly difficult.
Yeah.
This is for jiu-jitsu too. And I've had discussions I've learned a lot definitely with these discussions, but flexibility is an aspect of athleticism. Because we're not all flexible. It's a variable. Speed, strength, power, all these are athleticism. They're variables. They add to your ratio. We go back to ratios. They add to your ratio of winning. So if you're, I'll give you an example. Australia. I'm in the corner with Kane. We look over. Nogueira just gets into the ring. Now, Nogueira's awesome.
Yeah.
But to me, he's not very athletic compared to Cain.
Yeah.
He had almost no chance to beat Cain. And I know people say, well, yeah, but, there's a lot of technique involved. Yeah, of course there's technique. But technique is only a variable. You power that technique, like, for example, there is a really cool car there with no engine. You put an engine in it, then that car shines. Then the steering wheel and all these things come together. Well, that engine is the power, it's athleticism. When I saw Nogueira jump up and down, I go, there's no way he's going to beat Cain. And I had to see it in front of my eyes, not on TV. But when he jumped up and down before the fight, and if you can see it on TV or whatever, you can see that he's not as athletic as Cain. Nowhere near it. Cain is the champion, not because he's just good. That's an aspect of it. It's because he's the most athletic guy in that division. Just like GSP, just like a lot of these guys. So there's a lot to look at. This stuff gets scientific, There's not just, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy and I'm going to go into MMA and do well. Those are 4-ounce gloves, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's scary stuff, dude.
When you put an athletic fist in that thing and it's coming at you.
Yeah, and then you put steroids behind it. I mean, it's kind of the thing we don't want to all talk about, but you're like, okay, so the guy's good. He does all his pad work. He's genetically athletic. And then let's dump steroids on top of that. And a lot of these guys do. I mean, that's a recipe for, damage.
Yeah. Where do you see the future? Let's talk about just a little bit about judo, BJJ, and MMA. Judo has come up with some new rules about not doing BJJ and judo at the same time. Do you see that as being like a big deal, or is that?
Well, I mean, it's a big deal if you want to do both, and if you want to gain if I'm a high level judoka and I want to gain, and there's definitely some value in competing at a high level in jiu-jitsu, you're going to lose some of that. Like the rule of you can't really grip fight much too. Like I can't do 2-on-1 anymore. I grew up with the judo rules where I can do 2-on-1 and grip fight. And so what you saw is matches that were a lot of grip fighting. And what that does is it helped my hand speed. It just really coordinated my body. I got these hands grabbing at my gi and I'm blocking it and we're doing all these things. You're learning like hand-eye coordination. That's why boxing was so easy for me. Now I'm not going to say I'm great, but I've definitely banged with world champions, with my hands and feet. And I've learned from Javier Mendez, one of the best coaches in the world. So, but I didn't learn all that stuff very quickly if it wasn't for that grip fighting. So there's an effect. If you change a rule, there's an effect. Yeah. I've always said rules dictate behavior.
Absolutely.
So I really think that you're going to limit the opportunity for these people to reach their potential because you're doing that. So yeah, obviously I'm against it. I'm for freedom. I love freedom.
Yeah. Why do you think they made that rule about not doing jiu-jitsu and competing in judo?
Well, I can only anticipate, though. I can only assume, and I don't really like assuming what's going on in some other people's minds. You know what I mean? I don't want to be disrespectful to them. I think, like every organization, like the UFC, for example. The UFC has been so good to me personally, and all these other organizations, there's always good and bad or perspective. So I can't sit there and say, well, because of this, I don't like the USA Judo or whatever I don't even think it's USA Judo. It's whatever the organization that is doing this rule. Judo is awesome. Even today, even with this rule, it's amazing. I just love it. It's like it's the most dynamic, to me, the most dynamic grappling art in existence, even more than wrestling. So I don't know why, and I never will know why. I think it should be overturned. But if I have one of my athletes that's a high level judoka, I'll just have him stick to judo.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is not in the Olympics, and it'll probably never be in the Olympics. So I think there's always that. Judo will always be a world sport. Jiu-jitsu is becoming a world sport, but it still needs to legitimize itself. There's still things that I mean, it's amazing how fast it's growing, and I think it's because they had a business model, which is awesome. But I still think it has room to grow and grow in the right directions. But these are all politics.
Yeah,
just, is what it is.
Do you have a favorite like a format for your students to go compete in for jiu-jitsu?
A format,
or like an organization, or no, like the rule set, or do you? What do you think about the current rules in most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments?
Well, when we do jiu-jitsu rules, like, we switch. We'll do judo rules, we'll do wrestling rules. Our kids can do it all. So, yeah, they adapt. They know that, for example, when they shoot a single, they can't have their head on the outside. They know when they do judo, they can't touch the legs. They know. So, if they're getting ready for a big competition, then we'll do a lot of, make sure they're in tune with the rules. But, we definitely have a format. We have a curriculum for everything. We're probably one of the most structured academies, maybe in the world. We work really hard to be. So, but if someone's getting ready for a judo competition, then they'll do more judo than jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
We mix it up.
Are you a fan of like the growth of the like submission only tournaments and seeing that kind of change things, or do you like the more traditional shorter time limit with points and advantages?
I think all of it is good.
Okay.
I think even that's what is it? I apologize, but there's the New Worlds. It's Southern California. I think my brother he competed in it and won with it. I don't know if you know the name of it, but I know there's the IBJJF. I think having competition in organizations is excellent. And they'll have their own following, and it'll all grow. I don't think one organization should control everything. But I think it's good. I think the only thing, like even Naga, the only thing I have with like the rules is like when a child gets used to a certain rules and brings that into like IBJJF, that gets a little dangerous. So, for example, like guillotines is good in kids divisions in Naga, not good in IBJJF. And I had one of my students actually get a concussion because there was a guillotine applied and the kid pulled guard and the kid's head went into the mat. So, like, that's legal in Naga, but not in IBJJF. So, like, certain things like that, you just got to be really careful as a coach. Your kids really have to understand cross-training and be able to adjust the rules. And to be honest, they're pretty good at that, but it definitely needs a lot of coaching.
Yeah. It's always disappointing when you see somebody lose or get penalized, and basically they just don't understand the rules that they're fighting under. That's part of training, is to learn what you're getting into and to learn what you can and cannot do.
Exactly. And then obviously the academy needs to, I'll tell some of my kids, okay, I don't think you're ready for this tournament. I'll straight tell them, like, you're not, I'd rather you stick to, and they go, awesome, cool. And it's, it works really well. Like, none of our kids get hurt. We're very controlled. I like IBJJF rules. I like a lot of the rules that are coming out. As long as it's not crazy like kids doing MMA, striking the head, get knocked out, or heel hooks or stuff like that. As long as we, as a community, control that. Because it's not worth getting hurt. It's just not.
Especially when I was a kid, in my mind, I could not get hurt. And I got hurt all the time, but I didn't really realize that what I'm about to do, I'm going to ride my bike down this crazy ramp, is probably going to hurt right after I do it. I didn't even see that coming. Like, it was a total shock to me that I would get hurt doing something. And as an adult, it's opposite now.
Yeah, and you don't even get promoted for doing that. No one's giving you a yellow belt for riding a bike down a road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no good reason to do it.
There's no long-term goal there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, kids are very resilient.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's one thing I've learned, because I teach kids a lot, and I'm like, a lot of people don't understand the potential of children. They really don't. You just give a kid a positive environment and good support, like we talked about, they can do anything. And they can still have a positive outlook on life. It doesn't have to take that away from them, too. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it does. Do you, like keep track of how the kids are doing in school, or do you kind of leave that for the parents to?
No, that's definitely. I mean, the way we look at it, we don't raise the kids. Of course, that's the parents' obligation, but it's definitely teamwork.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of families are looking for is obviously trust with the academy, professionalism, but definitely, like it takes it takes a village. So
yeah,
we're all, we are very involved in making sure, again, a positive tone is applied to all aspects of life, even diet. Because if you have those three, again, your ratio of success in any aspect of life increases. It's a positive, healthy, thing. Now we don't. Again, it's not. It's not forced. It's. There's a tone there. It's applied. Look, how's he doing in school? But for the most part, the parents come up and just talk to us.
Yeah.
About it. So.
They let you know if he's got an F in science or something like that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you right now, for the most part, like almost all the time, it's like the grades are better because they're trained.
They get that confidence. They get the drive, and
because they understand. Because that's why belt systems to me is so important. Because you put the hard work in, you're going to get a belt. Period.
Yeah,
and that they can't just have one. I would say. Source of, reward system. Because if you just have one thing, you're like, well, maybe something else is easier or better. When you go to jiu-jitsu and you have a reward system, you go to school, you have a reward system, you go, okay, this is how the world works. If I work really hard, I'm going to be rewarded. My I would say level of productivity in all aspects increases. 2 + 2 is 4. To me, it's a very simple concept that is a truism.
Yeah. What would you say would be a good goal for an adult student, or I guess a kid, for the first year of training?
Each academy definitely has specific goals, but I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to get my guard pass so easily. I mean, these are small increment goals, I think, that you can look to strive for. But I think even more important than that is first goal is attendance. There's a lot of people that will nibble and say, I don't like that. Or dabble. I say dabble. Certain things aren't for everybody, but I'm trying to think of a skill set. I don't know, fishing, or I don't care what it is. And they do it barely once.
Yeah.
You're not getting a perspective at all. Like traveling. There's a difference between, a 3-month trip or a year trip in Japan as an American than there is, I was there on a layover and then I went to, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And people say that all the time, but that's just, it's very unfair to have your opinion about something when you haven't given it a shot. I've lived in Japan for 3 months. That's the longest track. I've done that in Brazil too. I have more of a perspective than I was there for a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I had to actually get into the language, and I had to speak Japanese, and kind of put a Japanese hat on or a framework, or we call eyeglasses, like in sociology. You're putting different eyeglasses on. You actually have to see through different lenses to appreciate it. So I think the first goal for new anybody is just do it. Nike was the greatest slogan of all time of anything ever created in the universe. Just do it. Make it a repetition. Make it conditioning. I wake up, I go to practice. Almost robotic. I think that's. Then along the way, you're gonna find small increment goals, and have fun with it. Smile.
Cool.
You're gonna get tapped. That's the experience.
Yeah. I think it's it.
I just try to work. I just work really hard on not letting it happen to me anymore.
But it's definitely part of the experience of being a new student is getting tapped and getting getting in weird positions with people you don't know, and getting, there's a lot of weird stuff coming at you that you're not used to, and it's uncomfortable, and it's sometimes painful. So you can't experience that once or twice and think you understand whether you're going to like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Learn to control your emotions. That's not the goal. Like I said, jiu-jitsu is not just about arm bars. And this is for adults too. It's about being a better person.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that when people come into me, they're not good people at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. You will increase your quality of life, period, in all aspects. Because you're around like-minded people in a safe environment. That's what's most important about martial arts. And with that, you're able to control your emotions on a level that you wouldn't be normal. Because we're all human beings. Like I said, we all have ups and downs. That's what martial arts is about. Wow. It's not about punching someone in the face. That's not really what it's about. I think people get caught up in that, but that's not. It's about respect, honor, and admitting something is bigger than myself.
Yeah, that's really nicely summed up, and it shows. I mean, you've got so many top level competitors, and you've still got this philosophy about why you're in here training. You're improving your whole life. You're not just focused on one goal that's going to end at this date, and then you're done. It's getting a better life. It's training with good people. It's the whole thing. I'm loving it. What would be a good way for somebody to get a hold of you or keep up with what you're doing?
Definitely through the website, either DaveCamarillo.com or I think it's GorillaJJ.com. I'm also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Always positive on social media. If you want to get a hold of me, those avenues are ideal. There's an email on the website.
Sounds good, and I'll put a link to those on the page when it comes out.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. I had fun. It was good.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, thanks for everything, and get a hold of me if you ever need anything.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. We'll see you.
Yep. Bye. All right. That was an interview with Dave Camarillo. Really had a good time talking with him, and get such a guy like that on the show. It was a pleasure, and I'm glad to bring his insight to the audience, and hopefully you guys had as much fun as I did. Next week, we have a big episode. Submission Series 902 is coming up on Friday, January 23rd, and we do a preview of that. It's featuring the best grapplers from that area, the area code 902. They're in Nova Scotia, and then they bring in other athletes for them to compete with. A lot of great guys. We've done, I think it was 6 interviews of athletes, and one of the guy who's putting it on, Kat Clark. So they're not all hour-long interviews. They average 10 to 15 minutes, so it's short. But it's good to see all these little glimpses of these guys who are getting ready to compete and who are training for a submission-only event, and see what's going through their minds and what they're up to. So it was a lot of fun recording those interviews. And as of right now, I'm getting them spliced together, so that should be it'll be done every Monday. We've got one coming out. So, and then the episode after that, we have Rafael Lovato Jr. on.
So you definitely don't want to miss that show. As we know, Rafael Lovato Jr. is one of the best grapplers in the world. So he's going to share some insight with us, and we're honored to have him. Yep,
that was another fun interview. So, and that will be Submission Series interview podcast comes out on the 12th, and then Lovato Jr. comes out on the 19th. So every Monday, my friends.
So that'll give you some time to plan, so you're ready. And don't forget, just get on our email list, and we can send you an email to remind you. So,
yeah.
And plus, we can send you the audio, the short audio clips there.
Yep. So those 2 free audiobooks, and I'm hoping to make some more on there. I just said more on. Hoping to make some more and put them up there. Next week, Kerry, good news, man.
What's good news?
Dave Camarillo gave us a quote of the week, so we're off the hook for doing it on our own, and we get him to do it.
Because it was going to be my turn since you took this week's.
But he does it, and he's got a good one. It's one of the things he's really passionate about. So it's a real good quote.
Looking forward to that.
Guys, if you want to help the podcast out, we do appreciate 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. It really helps get the podcast out there and seen by more people. If you want to write a funny review, we really enjoy those.
And we'll read it on air, too.
Yeah. And if you live in the United States, we'll be happy to send you out a BJJ Brick gi patch. Nothing super crazy, but you can still find them online there. They're not for sale. There's only one way to get them, I guess. Is to write
we make it a little bit harder. You can't buy them.
So, but I'll I just don't feel like setting up the payment process to sell a gi patch. So basically, when you write a funny review, email us at bjjbrick@gmail.com. I'll put a patch in an envelope and send it out to you. Pretty simple.
Yeah, definitely. Or you can email us any questions you have at bjjbrick@gmail.com. You can send us a message there on Facebook there also. And we love getting your messages and your likes every week. And we really appreciate it. We get here lately, we've been getting some emails there from our buddy Andy Dickey, and we really appreciate his input.
Yeah, we love really digging the feedback. The Facebook message on the fan page there is really nice because we both will see that, and usually I have to forward the Gmail messages to Gary, but
Byron won't give me the password. So.
It's super secret, Gary. No, it's something about Gary, and I don't want to tell him. It's too weird. No, but the way if you message us on Facebook, we'll both get to see it, and we do notice when we really appreciate you guys liking the posts and things like that. We always notice who's liking them more, who's consistent and liking them several times. That's really cool.
Yep. And if you have any ideas for articles of the week or somebody to interview, we're definitely open to that, and we've done that numerous times from people telling us about an article or saying, hey, here's my instructor, here's my buddy, he's a good guy to interview. So, we always appreciate the help, and we appreciate all you guys listening to us.
Absolutely. Also have a Twitter account, Instagram.
Ooh, we got Instagram now?
Yeah, it's been up there for a while. I just don't.
I missed that meeting.
Did you?
Yeah.
I hope you're putting cover letters on your TPS reports there, Gary.
My TPS reports are a little lacking, but oh well.
So catch us next week, guys. Hey, if you're in the Wichita, me and Gary are both in Wichita, Kansas. If you're going to come by the area, hit us up and we'll be happy to train with you.
And we appreciate you listening. Get out there on the mats, have some fun, and use that brick.
Yep, we'll catch you next week, my friends.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.